you're a fraud.
You're a liberal hack.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast, episode 16 of The Hack and the Fraud. I'm Ryan and joined by Nick as always.
Hello.
And today we saw A Quiet Place Part 2, which is written and directed by John Krasinski, as we all know. It stars Emily Blunt is in it. Cillian Murphy.
Yep, she's in a good addition.
Yeah, we love Cillian Murphy.
Digimon Honsu, I believe, comes in.
Oh, yeah, that guy I recognized.
And the guys from the previous one.
The children.
Whoever made it, yeah.
Yeah, who were fun. And, it's a sequel to this smash hit, A Quiet Place, which I liked quite a bit. And you, Nicholas?
Did not like. I didn't like the first one. And I thought it was a bit cheesy. I thought, I didn't enjoy the first one. So we both went into this movie thinking completely opposite opinions about how this second one was going to be.
Can't wait for the sequel. Nick's like, all right, we'll watch it.
Yeah.
And
I'll hate watch it.
Yeah, and I'll get a good kick out of it. And it pretty much kicks off right at the end of A Quiet Place 1.
Yeah.
I don't know why you came all the way up here.
There's nothing left.
There are people out there. People worth saving.
Okay, Nick, how did you feel? What did you think of A Quiet Place 2?
You asked really kind of sheepishly. You know what? I'm going to give it props. It was quite good, actually. I thought it was. Yeah, you didn't like it, did
Wrong.
you?
I did not.
I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was better than the first. Obviously, it's hence why I'm liking it. I like that it sort of picked up from where it was, essentially left off from the first movie. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I didn't like it. Maybe I just hated the first one that much. That this one was just like, oh, okay,
in comparison,
step in the right direction.
We'll compare this to a good movie then.
Well, it's okay.
Okay.
So, now, there's I've got a lot more strengths to talk about than weaknesses, if it makes sense. So for that reason, I can't really just because I hated the first one give it a shit score. That's not fair to Jim Caviezel. Sorry, Mike Krasowski, the director.
Okay. Well, what did you like about it?
No, I want to just go on record and say not a massive fan of John Krasinski's. So I don't know.
John
Wablowski's. I thought his directing was quite good, though.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
his directing is good.
Yeah, I thought he really nailed the tone. I thought he really had a great. Well, it wasn't obviously his score, but the score throughout was utilized very well. A lot of the really tense moments were tense, like I was shitting bricks. During like the very silent moments where you had sort of three different plot lines going at once.
Yeah, sure.
Which I normally like. I've seen it, Found a Menace, made it work, and never seen it's been great.
There's so much going on.
Yeah, I like it though. It's like I think that's not a bad story. Not a bad storytelling.
Having things coalesce at the same time, kind of like Dunkirk is probably the best example of that. That's the whole movie is. Yeah, three storylines.
Yeah, I was thinking. Obviously, it is nothing like that, really, but it has got Cillian Murphy, and it does use that shepherd's tone, which is that kind of the tone that feels like it's building up. Yeah, exactly. But so that kind of just creates this apprehension, which is really great. I thought it was very well.
Rising tension score.
Yeah, rising tension score. So I thought the cast edition was very good too. If not.
Basically,
occasionally,
just instead of John Krasinski, he's kind of like smarmily, kind of perfect white guy dad. Then you got Cillian Murphy, so he's probably an improvement.
Yeah, he's an improvement for sure. He tries to make it a whole thing that he's not as good as John Krasinski the whole movie.
Yeah, I know. And the whole movie is like John Krasinski's shadow is like hanging over the movie, and all the characters are like, he was such a great man, and you're so much like your father because you're also a great person.
Isn't it funny how
he's
probably
the writer-director, and it's clearly it's like based on his life because it's like Emily Blunt, his wife. And it's like, what would it be like if myself and my wife Emily Blunt got into this situation? And he's like, I would be the hero, and I'd probably sacrifice myself, and then everybody would be like really sad forever.
It's really funny that he's kind of more like the Michael Scott now than the Jim, whatever Jim was. He's a bit of both, isn't he? He's just got a bit of an ego.
Oh,
thing.
for sure, yeah.
So this is why I don't like him, right? Like,
And he briefly
that?
shows up in the prequel, and he's just being like perfect dad. I think maybe since he got super buff, and then also had like Jack Ryan and Quiet Place and stuff. I feel like Krasinski's he's transcended The Office and the Jim Halpert thing, and now he's like a cool guy. Yeah. Whereas he was always kind of like dorky, kind of
dorky, charmy.
Yeah,
charmy.
And now he's like a cool guy.
Yeah, he's like if Chris Pratt was an absolute dickhead. And then
I thought that's what people thought about Chris Pratt.
No, but he's just so charming. But then he got really buff, and he was just like, I'm really kind of sexy too now.
Yeah,
but like he was also very likable.
Yeah,
I feel like he's the opposite of that.
Now I feel like John Krasinski at like dinner parties and stuff just like takes over the conversation. And just talks about his
Anyway, enough about the director.
Krasowski.
We're kind of giving... I'm trying to give props to, but I'm also really savaging him to him.
No, because the directing itself is good. Like, I don't have any issue with the directing. Like, it's a very competently made movie. I don't know where he practiced, but, there's some just nice shots in the movie. And it's like every shot is kind of, like, thought out. And there's never a scene where you're just kind of like, they just chuck this together without, thinking about it,
The world's a thought-out world, and that's, I give it absolute props to
but
that.
Not particularly inventive, like in the post-apocalyptic, aesthetic. The aesthetic is not unique in any way.
No, but I guess, like, the smaller things expanded upon from the first film, so having, like, walking on the sand to keep quiet...
there's a scene where there's like the leaves have fallen, like crunchy dried autumn leaves, and they have all the sand, and then the sand ends and they have to step onto crunchy leaves, and it's a very tense scene, and then the camera pans up and then there's like grass on either side of the leaves. Could have just walked on the grass, I thought.
I kept on I was cringing at that, not for that reason,
There's a
but
few
for
scenes
like where she's walking barefoot on the really kind of rocky gravel when there's grass, and I'm just like, what are you doing?
Just walk on the grass.
Walk on the grass.
There's a couple of scenes like that where I'm like, there were a couple of scenes in the movie that were just kind of stupid. Yeah. Like, the movie was kind of stupid.
There's another thing. If you've got a thing for feet, I feel like this is your antidote, because it's just like the way
they would love it. The dirty,
I don't know. You reckon?
Yeah.
But it's just
the
so
dirtier the better.
Bad feet.
So I've heard.
Yeah, the dirtier the better. So yeah. I'll be very interested to see what Quentin gives this one.
He loved it. What else? So.
I'll talk about the bad the things I didn't find as bad, and you've probably got a heap, right? Yeah. Cool. All right. So, I mean, it happens so often in these sort of movies that to drive the plot, you need to have either a MacGuffin. A MacGuffin. What's that mean? That's like
it's a plot point that doesn't really serve a purpose apart from being a plot point, right?
To just drive it forward.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I mean, sometimes it doesn't mean anything at all. But like with this, like, they got to get to the island because they heard the song on the radio and they got to blah, blah, blah. Which is kind of like the thing that's driving them.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like, to get from one point to the next. So, for example, they had the monster. Maybe we'll get to spoilers a bit later. But like some character decisions are just made purely just for the next scene.
Yeah, that's what I felt as well. I think that was something that I thought during the movie, is that most of what the characters are doing and most of what's happening they don't really have an emotional connection to what they're doing.
Yeah,
it's just kind of things are happening around them and they're reacting to it and stuff. But I was trying to think of what movies to compare it to where like all of the action emotionally affects the characters. And I don't know why I was thinking of Pulp Fiction actually out of all the movies, because it's nothing like it. But like everything that's happened is like emotionally affecting the characters and they have a connection to it. Whereas in this movie, it felt like everything they were doing didn't really have an emotional connection to it. So I was bored a lot of the movie because I didn't really feel the emotional connection to what was happening through the movie. Like the characters, sure, and the characters are in danger, which connects you to it. But like the actual plot points, like the story is really weak, I thought.
Yeah.
This is a really weak story to build around. And basically, early on, they hear a song on the radio saying "Beyond the Sea," and the deaf daughter figures out, there's an island off the coast, and it's a signal saying, "Come hang out beyond the sea. Come to the island where it's safe." And she's like, "Okay, we're going to go to the island."
Yeah, but I like that kind of. That's the sort of destination, and I was on board with that. I just think their immigration policy needs a bit of work. I mean, if you got a boat coming, you got to be like, let's just make sure there's no things on that boat. They can't swim. Anyway,
we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
So, look, I think the key for me, I was mainly bored during the movie. It's just a lot of scenes that are nothing that I hadn't seen in the first Quiet Place. It's like, you're doing a sequel. What's the point of the sequel? Like, what are you... Because the first movie was, like, kind of a breath of fresh air. It was, like, a unique concept to some degree. I know there's another book and a movie and whatever. But, like, in terms of what I had seen, it was a relatively fresh concept, and it was for a lot of people. Introduced to John Krasinski, maybe not a positive, but, you know, the first movie had a lot going for it. This movie didn't really offer me anything new.
But you're talking... It's funny because you mentioned, like, the sort of... a lot of the... plot points not having this emotional connection. I felt that with the first one. I really didn't. I didn't care when John Krasinski died. It's maybe for others. No, but it just seemed to. I mean, like, I've seen that before so often. Like the sort of post-apocalyptic perfect country family living off their own
dad sacrifices.
Dads, you know, like, but it's like that perfect family. Introduces a baby into this world, which I just
where did the baby come from? I forget the first movie. When did the baby come in?
It was such a risk, a needless risk too. Anyway, look, it's all. It's just it's been done. It's like, but it's like that little perfect family was just like a cutout from, I don't know, like a 1960s, 70s perfect family.
Yeah, sure. And like the hero dad and like
the hero dad and the mum who.
Mum helps, but like not as much as the dad, like not as competent.
She's just there to carry the next baby.
And be emotional like
that's how I felt about the first one. I really didn't care about this family.
I mean, in this one, John's dead. Obviously,
I thought Cillian Murphy's character added a lot to it.
Did it?
I couldn't understand why. I just felt. Because I think what was
like
good about I like him as an actor. I thought the actor was great, obviously.
Yeah, he's always.
I like
good.
him as an actor, obviously. So had that sort of going for it. He was able to sort of like. I know it's kind of like trying to portray this sort of
broken
Faramir type hero, you know, like a chance for Cillian Murphy. But I feel like he's a bit more than that, and I feel like it's despite maybe the direction, he's sort of. Is a better main than...
Yeah, like he's more interesting than John Krasinski, who is literally perfect. You know,
exactly.
His character is perfect. It's like there's no flaw whatsoever.
But the good thing about this character is you didn't really... You question him a little bit until the very end. Like, I found myself thinking...
Pretty quickly he establishes like...
No, but I was thinking up until... The kid was searching through all his stuff. He was going to find something.
Yeah,
that was going to be like, oh my god, this guy
killed his family or something
like that.
Yeah.
I kept on having that thought. And
I thought that briefly, but then when she was looking at his stuff and there's like a drawing, which ends up being a drawing of his son, I think, that he snatches away so that she can't see it or whatever. And I was like, oh, what's happening there? Is there something with the character? But then he's just pretty much a good guy for the rest of the movie. And his flaw is that he doesn't want to help them at first because he's like traumatized by everything that's happened. He's like, I can't look after a fucking family. He's like, leave. Yeah. But then very quickly he's like,
but he's given up hope. But he's a reluctant hero.
It's about a guy without hope, his whole family's been killed, and with nothing left, like getting a spark of like hope back.
Look, he's no like complete unique character. I'm not going to say that, but he's a much better character.
Oh, sure.
Like a reluctant hero is a much better character to follow than the one that's like
boring perfect dad.
Boring perfect dad, yeah.
Like G.I. Joe, kind of like. Yeah, look, and I agree that he's fine. He's a fine character. It's just like, again, it's like not anything new and his flaw really is not really a flaw. It's kind of like, obviously he's not wanting to get involved in other people. He's just trying to survive.
Dissociated. Like, that's barely a flaw, but it's not like it's sort of viewed as a flaw. And
maybe if there was something more like I think it's implied that he killed his wife because she was in so much pain from her. She's like sick. She has cancer or something. So.
Or didn't kill her wife and just kind of
let her. Well, she was screaming and stuff. Yeah. So like,
I don't know. Yeah.
There's that, I suppose, but I was expecting maybe he had done something bad, and this is a chance for redemption. But if you haven't really done anything bad, the redemption arc doesn't really land as well. Like in this movie, he was never really a bad guy, and he never did anything bad. And then so his redemption arc is just kind of like, he just continued kind of being himself. His character didn't really have an arc too much because at the start he's like, yeah, look, I don't want to help you, and then like 5 minutes later he's like, all right, I'll go save your daughter or whatever. You know,
yeah, I mean that was
very quick.
Very quickly, yeah.
I wouldn't say it's an arc over the course of the movie because it's like established within the first third that he's going to help.
Yeah.
So,
there
not
are
a positive.
kind of silly additions to the movie. So he talks about what people have become, or what he thinks people have become, and you see a glimpse of that with that little kind of
So we'll get into this kind of spoilers now.
Isn't it halfway through the film though? I think.
Yeah, it's 2/3 through, I would say. So they're about to get to the island. They find boats. He's like, I found a boat. And there's like 20 boats. I was like, okay, he's found 20. He just went to the harbour. It's like, and then there's a little girl there, and he goes up to the little girl to, help her, and she's some kind of wild child, and she's there as bait, and he gets trapped, and then all these dudes come out of the boats and out of the wharf everywhere, and they just surround them. But they weren't. So when that happened, I thought, so the song on the radio is a trap. They're like trapping people, but that's not the case because the island are like nice people. So what the fuck were they doing there? The wild people. It was like a coincidence.
They were the other people, and I feel like they had to be. They should have been, but because they talk about different people, but they just had. They literally were in the film.
It's like a roving band of cannibals or something. Like just people who've gone fucked up because there's no society, right?
Yeah,
but. They're going to the island because the people on the island have sent out a signal saying, hey, come, we're helpful. And so they go to the harbour to get a boat to go to the island. So why is at the exact moment that they go there, it makes sense if it's a trap. They're like trying to trap people by being like, we'll come to the island. And as soon as people show up on the wharf, they kidnap them. But what the fuck are they doing there?
Yeah, that's the thing. They missed. I think this film. This is where it missed its greatest opportunity to have that villain, and they had it and they lost it.
Yeah, it's kind of like The Road is kind of like that. You ever see The Road with Viggo?
Well, Road. Even TV shows, just Walking Dead.
Sure.
There's so much better where you got like it talks about humanity, and they had a chance to kind of have its own go. But
no, because the only other people that you really because that's like a very brief scene, and it's very confusing that they're even there. So I was kind of just annoyed at the scene, and then the only other people in the movie are like. Just the perfect village living on the island. Just like nice people who like live on this island because the creatures can't swim. So the only commentary on humanity is that there's some nice people on the island.
Yeah,
it's nothing.
It's too hopeful, isn't it? Like,
it is. Like, and I mean, and that's fucking stupid. So we're getting to the spoilers. So like, what happens is when they get kidnapped, they quickly devise a plan, and Cillian Murphy gets the girl to dive into the water and starts making noise so that the creatures come to kind of fuck up everybody that's
just such
kidnapping
a stupid
them. No, I like that. I thought
no. I mean, the plan itself was good, but like they set themselves up for that really bad.
Yeah, that would obviously happen. Like
you're trapped in like this thing that makes noise if you move. Well, if you feel trapped, then you're gonna be like, fuck it, I'm gonna kill all these people.
If I'm
every single time,
I'm kidnapping. A guy and the young girl to murder, and that's what I am doing.
Yep. The implication.
First thing I'm doing is covering their mouths. If there's fucking audio monsters around that can track through hearing.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to do if you get kidnapped and there's monsters around? You just go, ah! And that's what they do. They go, ah! And then the monster comes. It's like, how fucking stupid are these?
Of course it's going to happen.
These roving band of cannibals. Like, what is wrong with them?
Yeah.
Anyway, that was annoying to me. And then they get to the island, and then like the day after, which is like they get to the island, it's like perfect. It's kind of like Lost, where they find the village of the others, and it's like they've been on this island the whole time with like fucking smoke monsters and polar bears and shit, and they're all in dirty, sweaty clothes. And then they find a village of like normal people who are just living like, and that's exactly what kind of happens. And then the next day, the boat that one of the creatures was on has like drifted across to the island. That is so fucking stupid. How like the creature, because they established
that's what it was.
The creatures can't swim, and there's a scene, and the last time you see one of the monsters, it kind of gets on a boat near the wharf and is like trying to get Cillian Murphy, but he's out in the water a little bit, so it can't get in the water.
So that's even more stupid because I thought it was from their own boat.
No, because remember they came across in a little dinghy.
Yeah, that's
and the boat that was like up against the shore was like a bigger boat.
Yeah,
and that was the last boat that one of the creatures was on. But like the creature would have got off the boat. It would have done like, and why would the boat drift exactly to the island?
Yeah, no, okay, well that's even more stupid.
It's so fucking stupid how the monster gets to the island. And then it kills a bunch of the villagers.
See, that's what I mean. It's like there's kind of they're like they couldn't get from point A to point B, and so they kind of just had to make the writing magically happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of
so
that.
that's
Like I think Krasinski's just not a very good writer, and I mean the first movie is written by him, and the second one, the first one is all right because it has like a lot of the sort of more meta elements of the thing that make the movie more interesting. But this movie kind of more relies on the strength of the writing, the story. Because the first one's already established, we've seen all the new things that Krasinski has brought as a director, and that movie kind of brought to cinema, not to like make it too big of a deal, because it's a good horror movie. But this doesn't have any of that freshness, so it really relies on the story and the characters. And the characters are fine, but the story that they're given to, I mean, and character is just how they interact within the story, how they interact with like external things and other people. And there's just not enough for this movie to interest me.
Yeah, well, look, you can see the vision there, but you just don't have that nitty gritty in terms of getting that, like the hard yards to actually have a coherent movie at the end. So look, I think where it sounds like I'm really low on it, but where I really did appreciate it was the tone, was the score. I was really not super. I was invested enough in the characters to care about them. I found that ending to be particularly pretty silly.
The ending was just kind of
how they wrote off characters too was
anticlimactic.
Kind of silly.
Because the ending is she still has the earpiece from the first movie, which has got a frequency that John Krasinski discovered, right? That like makes the monsters freak out because it's a certain frequency that makes them freak out. And there's a radio station on the island that was broadcasting the song that brought them to the island, and then she takes a fucking while the monster's like right next to her to put it to the speaker and make the noise. But while there's a monster in the radio station with them while the mother and the son are back at like Cillian Murphy's home, and one of the monsters is trying to kill them, and then she turns on the radio and it fucks them up. But that whole scene didn't really feel like the ending, and it kind of felt like it was being filmed when the mother and the son are trapped in this small area, and the monster's trying to get them, but it just doesn't get them for like 30 seconds. Like the movie just keeps going, and it's just kind of scratching around, and it keeps cutting back to them. I'm like, why aren't they dead yet? It felt like really poor editing, and thus the ending kind of felt anticlimactic because I didn't really feel the tension of like, this is the end of the movie. This is the final scene. Are they going to die? I didn't really feel that at all. I was just like, oh, okay, well, that's it. That's the end.
Yeah. So that had a kind of... Maybe leaves you with a
what did
sour
you feel
taste.
like at the end? Because like that's kind of what a movie does. Like, it's the end. Now I feel with everything in context, this is my feeling.
Yeah. Look, I was, like I said, invested mainly with Cillian Murphy's character. I liked his character, and so I knew of the film before, and so I'm kind of, I like the kids.
I was expecting more from his character because I love the actor so much. Like I really do, and he did great with it. Like nothing to him, but the character just wasn't enough for me to connect.
Yeah. Look, I guess I like the vision. So
Krasinski's vision. What is the again?
I like his world that he's kind of I don't know, created. It's going to inflate his ego too much. I like the world that's in play at them, and it's on. I
feel like it's a pretty by the numbers post-apocalyptic aesthetic landscape kind of vision. The only thing that's different is this monster. And the monster's only unique in its... I do like the monsters. They are vicious, you know, and they're kind of a cool design.
They're like an alien-like creature in that they're
like invincible.
So hard to do anything.
And I imagined kind of like the alien, that it's evolved in such a harsh climate. That it's not evil, it's just a creature, right? That has evolved in such a harsh climate that it has just become this kind of like invincible killing machine, because that's what it needed to do to survive in whatever its environment is. And I don't know if it's implied in the first movie or revealed in the first movie, but this movie reveals that they're from space, they're aliens. The meteorite crashes at the start of the movie, and you see, which is, that's a fine answer. They kind of look like miniature Cloverfield monsters.
Oh yeah.
Cloverfield, much better monster movie.
Oh, but it like its own world that it creates. Oh my god. Yeah, don't get me started.
You don't like the Cloverfield world?
No.
Wait, which out of the 3 Cloverfield movies did you like any of them?
The first one, yeah.
You didn't like the John Goodman one?
No.
Really? Not at all?
No, yeah.
Oh, I really...
See,
I mean, I can understand...
That to me is a cliche.
The Cloverfield paradox, is like controversial, but I still liked it. But really, 10 Cloverfield Lane was pretty well received.
No. Oh, I know it was, but
no. Well, I mean, like this movie was pretty well received, but for me, felt like an unnecessary sequel, like big time.
Yeah, I mean, it had somewhere to go, and I guess
It did,
tried
but it
to
just didn't go there.
But yeah, look, for me, it was better than the first one, and so that's good enough for me. Would you want to get the scores?
Yeah, let's get the scores.
I've given mine a 7.5. Not,
I thought
not
you'd be
fantastic.
higher.
No, I'm not higher for sure. But I did enjoy it, and I was tense the whole movie. I feel like it was a well kind of constructed movie. Obviously, question marks on the writing that we agree on. I think.
Is it a horror movie or is it a thriller?
I was.
What would you, or a drama?
No, I thought thriller.
Because it's not very scary, is it?
No, there's like
It's tense.
It's tense. That's what
And
I mean.
it has
but, like,
jump scares, but it's not like a horror.
Yeah, it's not horror in that like a sort of John Carpenter kind
No,
of like,
no, of course not.
well, you know, like, but it is like because you're sort of tense the whole movie. Well, I was tense for a lot of the movie, especially, and I thought that particular writing, how maybe some of the editing at the end was whatever, but like in terms of how it was able to sort of have me kind of on the edge of my seat, really.
Yeah, well,
kind
I
of
mean,
worried.
like I said, the
thought it
directing
was
is good. Krasinski does have a control of the medium, and he's able to really effectively build tension. Unfortunately, most of that tension is relieved or kind of reaches its crescendo with jump scares rather than like anything else, I suppose. Like, that's the only sort of horror element of the movie is tension, jump scare, tension, jump scare, tension, jump scare, So that was kind of... I ended up getting bored of the tension because I was like... just waiting for the, wall to smash in, and then the wall smashes in. I was like, okay. There's like one moment where you jumped and I didn't even feel it. And not that, because there are other moments that I jumped, but like, I think by that point of the movie, I was like clocked off from like being really invested or connected to the world. So I was just like, when the monster crashes through, it was like, okay, well.
Yeah, there was one moment where, and I can see you can getting fatigued with the monster just being like, oh,
Yeah.
But like it's just kept on happening.
The monster just kept.
So I was like, the 15th time. They're not going to do it the 15th. It's what's happening. They got me again. They got me again. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so my score is a 6.
Yeah,
6.
that's where I thought you'd be. So.
I was maybe going to be a bit lower, but like it is pretty competently made. I liked many of the pieces. I just think it's got a really weak story, which then you're not able to emotionally connect to it, and that kind of, and that's the whole key with movies. Any kind of movie is just being invested in it and just sort of allowing yourself to be drawn into the world. And the first one, which I probably gave like a 9 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
like
so
I was,
high.
but I was like invested in the world. I was drawn into it, whereas this one I wasn't.
Yeah,
And I was expecting to be. Maybe I had high expectations, but they weren't that high. I was just looking forward to seeing like a decent movie, and it didn't even reach that bar. So
I reckon John's probably listening and thinking, I need to be in this movie more.
I know. You know what would have solved this? My fucking face. Maybe my abs.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know I have abs now. Yeah. Well, Krasinski, I mean, look, I look forward to seeing what he does next.
Okay, so
is he a one-hit wonder, or does he have like something to say? Let's see.
I think he's got I think, like you said, he's got an understanding of the medium. So he's going to be back. He's going to keep making palatable.
Please don't make A Quiet Place Part 3 next. I want to see, because I just saw in the Wikipedia,
That being
Emily
said,
Blunt says he's got an idea for a third
That's
film.
why I thought the ending was so strange, because I thought, okay, let's introduce maybe what the third... Like, because I think it needs something better than that to finish on. So I know you don't want to see a third for the sake of having a third, but I feel
Third
like
just
it
has to
needs
go
a
bigger.
third. It needs something.
I think the problem with the third is it has to go bigger, and then we get too big,
Yeah.
and then it's kind of becomes its own. When you get too much of the backstory and of things, it kind of can ruin the magic of it.
maybe that's
Like
true.
too much of a good thing, or too much of a mediocre thing in this case.
Yeah. What I was thinking a lot during the movie in terms of like the world was how kind of cool it would be to have like a game like this where you
Last
have
of Us.
No, well, I mean, like, okay,
It is so, like when I was watching, I was
of
like,
Us.
I just played The Last of Us for the first time.
yeah, but you got to be quiet. I don't know, like,
Yeah, you
what,
gotta
if
be
you're like a
quiet.
quiet meter, and you got to like kind of Splinter Cell kind of thing, where you got
Yeah.
to be like creeping, and you got to watch out for the noise, and you got to
Yeah,
be like,
well, you should play Alien
utilize-
Isolation. That's kind of
Yeah, Alien Isolation was a very cool game.
Yeah.
I like that game.
yeah. Anyway,
But maybe more open world kind of. aspect. I don't know. That's what I was
But
thinking. That's why I like
the aesthetic was the big The Last of Us, and also The Last of Us sequel is The Last of Us Part 2 as well, not just like The Last of Us. It's very.
So you're trying to say John's
he's stolen the
He's a bit of a hack.
He's a bit of a hack. Yeah,
I've been saying this for
he's
years.
a massive fraud. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Recommendation from you?
I mean, like, if you watch the first one, like, only watch the sequel if you've seen the first one.
Yeah.
Normally, it's best.
Normally,
I think it's like, because I thought there might be like a bit of a catch up, but no, they throw you straight in there. So,
Yeah.
And I don't even like the first one, so yes and no. Actually, no.
I don't recommend it really.
it,
Like, honestly, if you watch the first one, you'll get everything that you will get out of this movie, but more from the first one. Like, nothing new from this movie. So.
Just watch the scene where John dies, and you'll be happy, and then that'll do you.
I don't hate him as much as you, but he's going to be very upset once he listens to this podcast.
I know.
All right, okay. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next time.
We'll be back, or we won't.
This could be
John's
the last.
he's gonna find us. Toodle.